Welcome to the Start of Brian.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our friends, Sophie LaMontagne and Katherine Berman. How'd you guys like that cheer?
It was great.
So thank you for making it here. First of all, we want to thank you for the cupcakes you guys graciously donated to our group. Was that awesome, guys? They're just like, yeah, the glucose. Okay, well, so we always like to start our fireside chat on a personal notes. Let's start with where were you born? Were you raised? What did your parents do? And what did you guys do for your first entrepreneur experience? So whoever wants to go first.
Sure. Catherine and I are sisters. We're a year and a half apart. I'm the older one, as Catherine likes to always mention. We grew up in Hamilton, Ontario in Canada. Went to school in St. Catharines. Came from a Greek family. Our parents and our grandparents were immigrants from Greece, and our parents both worked. Our mother was in banking, and our father was an entrepreneur as well. And we were raised by our grandparents who worked down the street, or lived down the street from us. And so we spent much of our early childhood with our grandmother in particular. And being from Greece, she baked and cooked everything from scratch. And so she was a very strong influence on us from a very early age. And when we were little girls, we'd often say, one day we loved baking with her. We would, follow her around in the kitchen, and literally, she was our everything. And we always said, one day we're going to open a bakery together. And we would joke about it and talk about it as little girls. And as we got older, we still talk about it. But our parents were very insistent that we go to college and, we work for large companies or go into medicine or law. They were from Greece. And so in their minds, entrepreneurship was not an option for us. They always later on said, people in our country are trying to get out of the bakery and go into business and finance, and you guys are doing the opposite. And so it was starting a business was not an encouraged thing in our family. And so we went to college. I went to Princeton, and Catherine went to Marymount, and we worked in our careers for a number of years. I think we didn't start Georgetown Cupcake until I was about 30 and you were like 29, and I was working in venture capital, and Catherine was working in the fashion industry for Gucci, and we loved what we did. And I always tell people who are thinking about starting a business, it's easy to quit a job when you're unhappy, but it's really hard to quit when you like what you do. But I think for everyone who's thinking about starting a business, and you know this if you're an entrepreneur, you have this spark inside of you, and it's hard to explain to people who don't have it. But I think all entrepreneurs have this spark, and it's something you know it's in you, you want to do it. And so for us, we kept talking about it, and we were just, we were afraid of what our family and friends would think. And finally, in the summer of 2007, we just said, listen, what are we waiting for? If we don't do this now, we're going to spend the rest of our lives wondering, what if we should have done this? And so we just quit our jobs, and everyone thought we were insane. We didn't tell a lot of people what we were doing, partly because we were afraid, we didn't know how it was going to work out, especially in the food industry. Half of all new restaurants fail in the first year. And so we kept it quiet. Our parents were very, very scared, and I don't say disappointed, but they were not on board. I was married at the time, and Catherine was dating her current husband at the time. They I wouldn't say they weren't supportive, but I don't think they thought we were completely serious about it because, here we are, we just quit our jobs. They're like, well, let them try this. And so we were starting Georgetown Cupcake.
But before you go to the Georgetown Cupcakes,
our first business?
Yeah, your first business
okay,
right together.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would love to have said something like the lemonade stand, but unfortunately our first business was selling rocks at the end of our driveway. And,
Okay,
and it was
explain
pretty,
that.
and it
How's
was pretty, it's exactly what it sounds like. I think I must have been 3 years old. You were probably 5 at the time. And it was Sophie's idea to pick up rocks from, our home outside and try to sell them to people at the end of our driveway.
But the worst part was we were holding our kittens while we were selling the rocks. And so people would walk by and say, oh, are you selling kittens? And we're like, no, the rocks. We were asking them It was
How
like
much did you
such
guys
an
sell?
obvious thing.
No one bought any except for our mother did.
Yes.
Okay.
Our
She
mother
was
was
our
our
first
only customer, but I mean, that was pretty bad. But then, as we got a little bit older and we were probably, I want to say like 6 or 7, we started our own ad agency, and it was completely
We
make-believe.
do a lot of make-believe, yeah.
We did a lot of make-believe, and so we, I remember Sophie, I forget what it was called, but it was called the something agency where bright ideas are born, and our logo was like
This
a
is at
light bulb.
home, right?
This
it
is at home.
okay,
We were
got
just
it.
kids, and
Yeah.
so I would pretend Sophie was sort of the creative director of the agency, and I was basically her secretary. So she would ask me to file blank papers, like there was nothing on them, and then I would say, oh, we got a call, and this company wants us to do an ad for pizza gum, and so Sophie would draw this big advertisement, and it was pretty crazy. It was like like Mad Men.
We had the bug early on.
No, it's pretty obvious,
We had
right?
the greatest ideas early on, but we had that entrepreneurial bug.
So
early
Katherine said she was doing all the filings. It's sort of the same way now, like.
A little bit,
A little,
little
okay.
bit. Yeah.
Okay. So now, actually, just want to do a pause here. Hashtag Startup Grind. You can tweet out. Do you guys prefer the G-Town Cupcakes or the Katherine Sophie, or both?
G-Town Cupcakes, Georgetown Cupcake, and Katherine Sophie's our personal Twitter. But
Oh, the
either-
personal ones?
yeah,
Okay. So if you guys want to get personal touch with Katherine Sophie. Okay, so now we can talk about the beginning days
Yeah.
of Georgetown Cupcakes. So, I mean, obviously, you were working for a very prominent VC,
In
the founder of
Boston, yeah.
Staples.
Yeah, with Tom
he just-
Stenberg was he passed away.
He passed away recently.
Yeah, I worked for Highland Capital
Yeah.
Partners, and it was an amazing place to work. And I think working there actually really solidified my interest in starting a company, because I got to work with companies from a very early stage and see them up close and personal, at the board level, see the issues they were facing, and see them grow from startup phase, from like 1 or 2 people to IPO. And that's a pretty cool process to be a part on the other side of the table. And so I think being on that side of the table has actually helped to some extent in terms of like kind of figuring out where we want to be and how to structure our growth.
So, and then Katherine, you were at Gucci. So I just want to hear, like, when you had told your coworkers what you're about to do, like, what was the reaction? Like.
I think that in the beginning, the reaction for a lot of people, not just our coworkers but friends and family, were, really? You're gonna,
shocked,
you're like, they were. It was almost like they didn't believe it, and it was hard for them because at the time, I mean, it was 2008. The recession had just hit. People weren't opening businesses, and here we were quitting our jobs to start something that was relatively unknown and uncertain.
I think honestly, what we faced is a struggle faced by a lot of entrepreneurs who are very hesitant to take that first step, is that people around them aren't necessarily supportive, and not in a negative way, but when you have so many people questioning what you're doing, you begin to start to question what you're doing. And then you start thinking, am I making a huge mistake? Is this right? And when you start doubting yourself and letting the doubters get to you, that's when you can lose sight of your dream. And so I think if you're thinking about starting a business, you just need to jump right in and don't pay attention to what people are telling you around you. I mean, obviously your family and friends want what's best, but I think a lot of, as we were talking about earlier, there are some people who are born entrepreneurs and risk takers, and there are some people who are not. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with not being a risk taker in life. Some people are perfectly happy working at a company, working their way up in a stable environment and having that stability. And there's something to be said for that. And there's some people whose personalities, like that's for them. And entrepreneurs are not like that. Like we are comfortable taking risks. And I think we asked ourselves that question. Before we started, we said, listen, if this goes nowhere, are we comfortable starting from scratch all over again? And we had to ask that very hard question, and we said yes. And I think for some people, the answer is no. Like at our point in our life, we didn't have kids yet. The time was right to start. And I think there's a good time to start a business in your life. And when you're younger, it's a little easier because you don't have a family, you don't have kids, and if we had to start over again, we could. Society has safety nets. You can pick yourself up. You can, it's not the end of the world if your company doesn't work out.
Right. So, I mean, when you guys were working your professional jobs, I mean, were you like baking on the side anyways?
Yeah.
And
We bake in the weekends at home together all the
Yeah.
time. But until Katherine quit her job, we didn't seriously start working on our business plan. And I think you really need, and I think a lot of people try to, and we always encourage people, if you think you want to start a business, instead of going out on the weekends, work on your business plan and kind of build it slowly. But the best way to get started is you need to have like skin in the game. When we signed that first lease for our first shop on Potomac Street, we were on the hook. Like, that's it. It's real now. It's not like, okay, well, I'm going to start this and we're going to start this in a year or 2 years, or we're going to be launching soon. Like, that's it. The clock is ticking. Rent is due. We need to get things in motion.
And at the time, it was 2008. And so, Sophie and I were not able to get a bank loan. So we started very unconventionally. We had to use up all our life savings that we had. And as Sophie said, we didn't go out on the weekends. We didn't really vacation. We saved all that money. And we maxed out our personal credit cards to get this thing.
Which is not a conventional way to start a business. And I think depending on your circumstances, like, we didn't want to ask family and friends for money. We wanted to do it on our own terms. And so, like Katherine said, we maxed our credit cards out, and we put in a lot of sweat equity. Like, in our first spot, if anyone had been to our first bakery on Potomac Street, it was very bare bones. It was not fancy. The walls we painted. My husband did a lot of like the handyman work and construction. You literally spent like weekends painting and like doing things, and you make it work. You find ways to stretch your dollars and make it work.
So I wanted to talk about that first day when you open up your store. Very fascinating story. No marketing, just a sign. Not even. I mean,
And that sign, and we couldn't even afford that sign.
Couldn't even afford the sign. Okay.
I remember that sign. It was we passed our health inspection, and this was in February. And Sophie said, "We need to open tomorrow. Like, we need to open the next day," because we had all this credit card debt, and we were stressed out. And she said, "No one knows we're here. We need to put up a sign in the window." And her husband said, "You don't have any money left. Like, you can't afford to even make a sign anymore." Yeah. And she's like, "No, I'm going to go get a sign." And I have no idea how you scrounged up the money to get it, but she got a $80 sign made to go into the window from the FedEx Kinko's on M Street, just down the street, and we put it in the window.
That's all we did.
And that's all we did.
No invitations out there, nothing, right? You guys were even kind of low key about it, right?
We passed our health inspection, and we wanted to open as soon as possible to start paying our rent.
So now tell us what happened when you guys opened.
The first day. I remember, I still have the memory of baking in the kitchen with you downstairs. It was like 4:30 in the morning, and saying, "I wonder if anyone's going to show up today." And I remember that moment, like looking at you, and you were like at the ovens and saying that. Because when you start a business, you really don't think anyone's going to, like, you're like, "Am I the only one who believes in this?" Like, you don't think anyone's going to show up. And that morning when we opened, we had a line down the block. And we baked, I think, like 800 cupcakes. Like, we thought, okay, well, we didn't know how much. Like, this is our first.
And this wasn't free either.
No,
it wasn't free. It was
they paid.
This
is Valentine's Day, and so we thought we're gonna bake 800 cupcakes. And if we sell 800 cupcakes, that would be amazing. And we sold out within like 3 hours. I think we were out of cupcakes by noon, and we closed down and we rebaked. And I think we baked like maybe a couple hundred more. We did 2 more mixes of red velvet, and then we sold out. And we thought, well, it was Valentine's Day, and even the person who was from our point of sale company, he was coming just to check in to see if the registers were working. We actually had him like working the front counter with Katherine, and he didn't.
And he stayed till 9 p.m. He was great.
Yeah. And he's like, well, this is it's Valentine's Day. Don't worry, tomorrow.
He said, this is very like atypical for a business on their first day, and
no marketing. Like, people haven't even tested
tomorrow will be calm. Yeah. The next day we had a line start before we opened, and the next day, and it has not stopped, and it's very hard to figure out why. And I think, honestly, word of mouth at the beginning is what really, really helps in those first few days. And since then, after then, we had the Washington Post write an article, and Frank Bruni from the New York Times wrote a review on us when he was the restaurant and food editor at the Times, and people from New York started coming, and we started establishing foodie cred, and that kind of helped build the buzz. But in the beginning, it was those first customers in line who tried our cupcakes. Our building was very small, so you could smell them coming out of the oven. You could see us frosting them in the back, and it was a very visual and experience. And customers love the cupcakes, and we use the best ingredients, still the same ones to this day. And when you bake with the best ingredients, we baked fresh on site. People could see them being made. People that care about how their food's made. That resonated with those customers, and to the point where they told their friends who told their friends, and people kept coming because they wanted to try it for themselves. And I think in the food business, if you put out a good product, your customers will come, and with good customer service. And that's what we really strive to do to this day, and we've been very true to that.
So, I mean, it sounds like the sign was sort of the marketing, and there were the local people there
Yeah,
on
the
that
word of
street.
mouth
So was
from-
it mostly those people? Because, I mean, even to this day, you guys still don't know why that first day was so incredibly crazy.
No, but we had
Like, that's
Georgetown
unheard of.
students in their pajamas in line on the second day, like trying to, because they heard like we sold out, and so they wanted to get in line early. So people were talking, like people were telling their friends and telling their friends, and the way you get that word of mouth buzz is by putting out an amazing product and giving your customers an amazing experience. So they liked what they saw. They liked the cupcakes. They liked how they tasted. They liked their experience. And that's you need first. You can do all the marketing in the world, but if you don't have a good product and you don't have a good customer experience, it's not going to amount to anything.
Okay. I wanted to switch gears a little bit here. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of your show, and one of the, let's say, my favorite characters, I say, is your mom. So
Yeah.
let's talk about your mom. How many of you have seen the show? Okay. So I feel like your mom is probably the most adorable mother in like reality TV history. And she has actually been a very integral part of your business, right? And actually, she kind of reminds me of my mom, where she has good intentions, but
Yes.
right, like it actually makes things worse,
Yes.
right? So, could you
Should we tell them the
could
airport
you tell us
story?
like what's the craziest thing that your mom did at the store?
There are so many stories.
There's so many crazy things that she's done at the store, outside the store, last week, yesterday, today. I mean, I could go on and on. We could write a book about her.
What's the craziest? Like, if you could just pick one, like what's
I
the
would say
craziest?
that she locked herself into the fridge.
The walk-in fridge.
Yeah, she locked herself into the walk-in fridge, and nobody knew she was stuck in there for probably half an hour. And
Luckily, it wasn't
and
the
I
freezer.
and I walked by and saw her banging on, and it's almost soundproof in there as well, so you can't see. And she didn't realize there's like a turn push knob that you use to exit from the inside if it does close behind you. She had no idea. She'd been there for half an hour.
Yeah.
What's the second one? This is good. This is good. Do you have another one?
I would have to say for Halloween one year, we tasked her with coming up with a flavor, and I thought, okay, well, we're gonna do a candy bar cupcake or something with a ghost on it or something cute like that. She wanted to ward off the evil spirits, so she made a chocolate garlic cupcake, because in the Greek culture, garlic is keeps away the evil spirits, and there are a lot of things that go with chocolate.
Liked it.
And she
It was
liked
the
it.
weirdest
It was
part.
the most disgusting
She
thing
ate
I've ever.
two of them in a row.
And it was the grossest cupcake I've ever tasted. Like, there are a lot of things that you compare to with chocolate, and garlic is not one of them, but. God bless her. I mean, but the thing is, we wouldn't have been able to do this business without her. I mean,
Yeah.
she is such an integral part of it.
Yeah.
And on the show, everyone laughs at our mom, or with her mom. I mean, everyone loves, and she is representative of everyone's mom, because I think everyone has that very close relationship with her, and we have a very, very close relationship with our mother. And even before we started the business, we would talk to her, even in college, we talked to her at least 2 or 3 times a day on the phone and conference
And
call
she
each
lives
other.
with me now.
Yeah.
So I'm here because she's at home with my daughter. So
Yeah.
she's now become the granny nanny.
Yeah.
And so she's her role has kind of changed over time.
But she is. I mean, I think having a supportive family is so key when you're an entrepreneur.
So this is another important question I want to ask. But you guys are in business together. I've actually ran a business with family members, including my wife, and I remember after that project, she's like, "We're never going to work again, right? Together." So, like with you guys, I mean, what's sort of the advantages and perhaps maybe the disadvantages of working with family members?
I think that working with family members is not for everyone, and you really have to evaluate your relationship first before you go into business with a family member. For certain people, it works, and others, it doesn't. For us, it does. We're a year and a half apart. We've always been close. There's no other siblings other than just the two of us. And so growing up, it was very common for us to fight. And then 10 minutes later, we'd be playing again. We were teenagers. We would fight like cats and dogs. And then 10 minutes later, we'd go get lunch. And it's still like that to this very day. And that's that is really our relationship in a nutshell. We fight a lot, but what our goal is the same. We want what's best for Georgetown Cupcake.
And I think anyone who has a sister knows that it's a very complex and special relationship. There's no one else in the world that you'll have that same relationship that you do with your sister. It's one person in the world that you can be your true, authentic self in front of. And so we can speak our mind freely. We don't worry about sugarcoating anything. If I don't like an idea that Katherine has, or if she doesn't like something that I'm coming up with, we just come out and say it. And there's no boardroom politics. There's no trying to placate each other or worrying about each other. We just say it like it is, and we know we love each other. Like there's that level of frank, honest conversation, just being completely candid, that when you're in business is very much an edge. Because I think a lot of times in business, a lot of companies get tripped up with dysfunctional boards or people who just don't see eye to eye, or they feel like they're being marginalized. With us, there's none of that. Like, we say it like it is. I think the things we say to each other, we cannot say to anyone else in the world, not even our husbands. But it works with us because we have that. Our relationship is so close that we can have those kinds of honest conversations, and it helps us with our business.
So, what's the funniest decision you guys made together that, looking back, wasn't such a great decision?
That wasn't a great decision.
Like, you guys decided together.
Oh, I mean, tons of.
Like the funniest.
The funniest. Oh.
There's a lot of, I mean, basically it works sort of, I'll come up with an idea and Sophie will say, no, absolutely not. And then I sort of have to, work somehow to make it seem like she came up with the idea. And then she'll say, that's a great idea. And I'm like, and I'll say, isn't it? That's sort of how the relationship works.
Yeah,
I think it's an older sister thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do.
Okay. I mean, I have the same dynamic with my brother, who's about a year and a half as well, and he does the same thing to me. I'm like, that's an excellent idea, and then he's like, well, that was my idea. I was like, no, it was my idea. I wanted to switch gears again on the now that you guys launched, and then a year into it, there's a big push here with startups here with like growth hacking and marketing and PR. How did you guys handle the marketing PR for Georgetown Cupcakes? Did you guys outsource it? Did you have it in-house? Did you have both? How did you guys do that?
Well, we did it on our own. I think at a certain level in your company's growth, there comes a time where you should employ marketing agencies or PR agencies to help you grow. We use an external firm, and it really just depends on your company and your skill set. If you have a skill set that's in PR and marketing, and you can handle it in-house, that's great. For us, it's really about individuals and relationships and who we think gets our brand. And so there's not one right answer for everyone. I think it depends on where you are in the life cycle of your company, what kind of firm or support you need, whether or not you yourself or someone on your team has those necessary skills, or whether you can afford to hire outside firms.
So I wanted to ask about some of the social media stuff you guys are working on, right? I mean, are you guys using Pinterest, I'd imagine, Twitter, Snapchat, Periscope? Tell us a little bit about that.
We're very active on social media, and Katherine and I actually handle all of our social media, our Facebook, our Twitter, Instagram.
Katherine Sophie, that one?
Yeah, Katherine, and Georgetown Cupcakes too. We try to handle it ourselves because I think it's most authentic when it's coming from us. And we try to use those channels to connect with our customers. And I always say, you're going to learn a lot from your customers. And social media, those platforms didn't exist when we started Georgetown Cupcake. When in 2008, Facebook had just gotten started. People were just getting on it. I think Twitter had maybe just started. No one was really on it. We didn't get on Facebook and Twitter probably till a year in our business. We were kind of late to Instagram. We now have like over 400,000 followers on Instagram. And I think so we've adapted to those quickly, but I think if you're a business, you do need to use those tools because they are free. Facebook to some extent now, and it may not be in the future, but to the extent you can use them to connect with your customers, they're great ways to get feedback from them in real time and also share what you're doing with your customers. Because especially in our line of work, doing new flavors, showcasing our menu offerings, what's going on in the bakery, customers like to see that, and it is our business is very visual. So to the extent that your business is visual, definitely use Instagram. If you want to solicit real-time feedback, use Twitter. So tailor your social media strategy based on like what your company is focused on, but definitely use those tools. I can't.
What
they're
about
really important.
Pinterest? Like,
We use Pinterest. Yeah,
like,
I think.
Is Instagram more?
I think Instagram for us, and we have a very young following, and Instagram is definitely much
More
more
active.
popular and active than Pinterest is. But we do use Pinterest. I think it just depends. I think as a business, we like to see what technologies are being adopted before we kind of jump on. But I think it's safe to say Instagram, people are very active on that, and for us, it's been a great way to connect with our customers.
That's sounds kind of surprising to me because Pinterest, I'd imagine like they'll have the pictures of your Georgetown Cupcakes, like, and then they'll see it pinned
They
up, and they
do,
click
but
it, and then it goes to your
I
website to fill in orders, possibly. I don't know.
That's true, and I think for us, we see the most growth in mobile, and I think for some reason right now, Instagram has a stronger mobile following and among young users, and so that's where we're seeing. It depends on your brand. If your brand, if your age group is a little older, Pinterest may be a better fit. You may see more activity on that, but for us, it's definitely on Instagram more so than even on Twitter and Facebook now. But we certainly use all platforms.
Okay, and then can you maybe talk about a new show even that you guys is that
Yeah,
is
so
that,
we
you can talk about we can talk about that.
We're launching a 24-hour live feed video of Georgetown Cupcake Bakery on TLC.com. It's going to launch February 14th. Which is going to be a crazy day in the bakery. And basically, they have cameras already mounted over the mixer, the oven, the frosting table, the packing table, and the cupcake racks. So you can actually watch 24-hour live feed of the bakery going. If you can't fall asleep at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 a.m., you can log on and watch like the eggs going in, the milk, the cocoa powder. You can see it being scooped, put in the oven. You can see them
the
frosting.
orders being packed and what people are ordering.
And it's very cool because they have a camera over the packing station. So it's mesmerizing and at the same time very therapeutic, I think, to watch it because you can watch the boxes being opened and you see the orders being put in, and then they sticker it up and then they send it off, and the next order comes in. You constantly watching like something very different and visual every time. It's pretty incredible.
Well, let's put a little bit of context. So this is sort of piggybacking on the penguins.
Cam.
Yes,
Yeah.
so
Penguin cam?
they
Okay.
did a penguin cam a while back. I don't know if anyone remembers that, where you could watch the penguins live streaming, and this is sort of the same thing, but you can
So
live stream the bakery.
For us, it's very exciting and cool because we get to share what happens at our bakery, kind of the chaos every day with our customers. So you can place your order with your custom birthday fondant and actually watch that fondant being made in real time live. So I think it's really cool, and I think this is an example of finding a way to connect with people and share what you're doing with them. And for us, it's a little scary because it's live and it's 24/7 ongoing, like at least for a year. So we'll see how it goes.
I thought maybe that was sort of a cover up to keep an eye on your employees.
Yeah, well, it's good for that, but
You can only see hands.
so I can't see
So-
who's doing what. They
Got
can
it.
blame each other if something goes wrong. But you never know when it's live. You don't have control over
Sure.
what happens, so it's a little scary.
So I like how you guys are using a platform and to get a traditional business into the digital age. Now, I wanted to talk about, there's a lot of food. I mean, how many Foodsie startups do we have here? Raise your hand. Okay, there was quite a few here, but basically, like, I heard a past talk where you guys use big data to figure out like to help with your bottom line in terms of, for example, I don't know if you can answer this, but for example, you use the shipping data to sort of figure out where to increase sales and maybe put it in the next location.
Yep.
Is that true? Like
Yep.
when you guys open up, Atlanta and Boston, you guys were
Yeah.
using
Yes, our
that
shipping
data
data,
to
yeah,
figure out which
yeah.
city?
And so we started shipping our cupcakes nationwide about a year in, and that's actually now the fastest growing segment of our business. And in some respects, it's almost like a gifting part of our business. Where people, send cupcakes as gifts to like their friends and family across the country, and so we have data on where our shipments are going, and so we use that data to dictate where we open our brick and mortar locations. And so I think for us, it's important to rely on data, and I think sometimes people like when you start a company, you have an idea of what you want to do, and I always tell you your numbers will tell you what you need to know, and oftentimes they're going to tell you things you don't want to hear, but the numbers don't lie, and so you can't ignore them. And so while I always say I'd love to open a store in Honolulu, but I don't have data to support that we don't send enough shipments to justify a location there. And so we really use those data to drive our decision-making process on our new locations. And then on another level, we use our sales data to dictate how much of particular flavors we should bake at certain times of year. And so over 8 years, I could tell you, how many, chocolate marshmallow fudge cupcakes we sold between 1 and 2 p.m. on the third Monday of January last year. And that helps you bake the exact number you need for the following year. And so you should, when you're starting your company, wherever you can find ways to collect data, build those into your systems and platforms, because data will help you at every step of the way along your company. So try to build your systems or platforms to be flexible enough to collect the data that you think will help you over the long term.
Did you guys hire like an internal data scientist to do this, or
you
you
can
guys
do
did it yourself?
Yeah, you can do it yourself.
Excel?
Your POS system
Oh.
has all these different functions and capabilities, and it's just reading the manual, figuring it out.
If you don't like numbers, you're not a numbers person.
You don't want to synthesize the data.
Then you can hire someone to do it or flesh out your team. I think that along those lines, it's important to figure out what you're good at and what your skills are, and to build your team and to kind of realize your skills, and then hire people to complement them. Because if your thing is not like analyzing data, then you need to hire someone to who can do that.
Okay, so one last question on this big data thing. If you had a startup in this room that could build something for you, what would that be to help Georgetown Cupcakes?
Well, we were talking about this earlier. I think tracking deliveries in real time. Our delivery business is a huge part of our business. On Valentine's Day, even just in DC alone, we'll send out 1,000 local deliveries on Valentine's Day. And so to be able to track the status of each of those drivers throughout the day and where they are in their delivery list.
Or for the customers to be able to
track
where their cupcakes are, so they know if their delivery driver is coming next, or
It's like
where
an Uber for cupcakes.
Exactly.
Sort of, yeah, and you know where they're located, because on busy days on Valentine's Day, we'll have like 1,000 customers calling all at once to see where their delivery is, but there's only a couple of managers
if they could do it themselves, that would be amazing. So
Anybody have something close to that? Raise your hand. Okay, there's a guy right there. There we go. We got a little VC deal going on here. Right? So, just sort of switching gears here. Hashtag Stop Grind at Katherine Sophie at Georgetown Cupcakes. I wanted to get a little bit more serious talk here because I would say probably half the room here, we have more women than usual at our Startup Grind events. I wanted to talk about the inequality of women in the startup world, or when you're starting a business. Have you experienced any gender disparities as a female entrepreneur? If so, what were they?
I think they're more nuanced, and we don't really experience like outright biases, but we at the same time don't spend a lot of time thinking about it or thinking, wow, we're at a disadvantage, or we're, woe is us. We choose to kind of operate and not really think about that. I think for us, we've been able to grow our company thus far without any external capital or investors. So it's not something that we've really faced from a financing perspective, because the truth is, the private equity firms are mostly run by males, and until that balance is achieved, I think there's still going to be some challenges for women raising capital. I mean, it exists, but at the same time, I think if you have a great idea and you're a great entrepreneur, you will get funding. And we try not to spend a lot of time like worrying about those kinds of issues.
So what kind of words of wisdoms can you bestow onto our crowd?
Just, I think whether you're male or female, if you work hard and you're driven and you're willing to put it all out there and give it your all, you will do well. And like Katherine said, we couldn't get a bank loan in the beginning. And was it because we were females or because it was a recession? I don't know why people passed. It could have been a little bit of both. But the point is, we didn't let that stop us. When people said no to us, we found a way to get to yes. We found a way to open Georgetown Cupcake. It would have been very easy to say, well, we can't get a bank loan. No one's supporting us. this is it. That's like, no, we didn't do that. So I think if it's always say entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. You need to be willing to work really hard, and sometimes it's not easy. And we always say that was the first line in our show. It's not going to be easy, and the truth is, it's not easy, and it gets harder and harder as you grow. And so I think if you spend a lot of time worrying about, well, this isn't fair, I didn't get this opportunity, like you just need to work hard. And if you work hard, you'll get there. I mean, it may not be the way you thought you were going to get there, and your path may be a little zigzaggy versus straight up, but you'll get there.
So what's amazing about Georgetown Cupcake is that you guys are completely bootstrapped.
Yes.
You guys
to this
didn't
point.
accept any outside funding yet.
Yeah, we've grown with some bank loans to help fund our new locations. We have no outside capital, and we've not given up any equity.
Are you eventually going to accept any institutional investments to, grow your chain to 70 chains?
Yeah, I always, I think for every company, that decision comes at some point. Certainly we've had people approach us to this point, and I always tell people, like, if you can get your company and grow it to a point where you don't need to take external capital, then don't give up equity if you don't have to. There are some companies in some industries, if you're a technology company, you need to raise money, and you're not going to grow. You're not going to be able to get that momentum to build without capital. So, but there's also all kinds of different capital. You can raise your money from families and friends and have fewer strings attached. You can get it from angel investors and have them be a little more backseat. You can go to a seed fund. If you really need the rocket fuel to go fast, you need to go to a VC firm. But it's going to be expensive capital, and so there are trade-offs. It's not like they're going to give you money, but it's not just the actual dollars and valuation. You also need to worry about the terms of the financing and what happens if there's a down round and things like that. And so there are a lot of working in VC. I know that it's expensive capital, but at the same time, if you need that capital, you should take it. But if you don't need it, try to do it without it. So for us, right now, we're fine. We've been able to fund our own growth with our own cash flow. Because we work in the food business, we have a very strong cash flow for our business. If you're not in a business that has a cash flow that can support your growth, then yes, you will need to raise financing.
Do you ever see Georgetown Cupcakes be another Starbucks? Or I know you don't like that word Starbucks, but I think growing it to 70 chains. Do you ever see that happening?
think that for will there be 70 Georgetown Cupcakes? I don't think so. Will there be 20? Maybe. For us, we always wanted to keep Georgetown Cupcake special, and so that when customers came in, they had that special experience that you were getting.
A destination.
It was a destination bakery, and so that people would come in, they see their cupcakes being baked fresh, and you get that same customer service experience, that's magical experience every time. And so we're very deliberate where we put the locations to make sure that they have that neighborhood feel, that we are baking in an open kitchen, and customers are getting that magical experience every time they come in. And I think that in the food business, in particular, it's very hard to grow quickly and to keep that a special experience and keep the quality as well. And like we were talking about, sometimes when you go to a Starbucks, sometimes they can be hit or miss. And for us, one miss can really, kind of destroy your business. So we got to keep getting hits every time, and we really want to focus on the quality and the customer experience.
So we take a very measured, disciplined approach to growth.
Well, what's really amazing is that you have seven locations, but you have close to 400 people employed, which is pretty crazy. Yeah. So, because it tells you that the operational piece is probably very big. Let's talk about hiring. When you guys hire, what sort of qualities do you look at? Because every startup has a DNA, a cultural DNA. Do you guys look for that kind of stuff? And do you know when you're interviewing them? The other thing too is, do you guys interview everyone?
I screen resumes, and we try to interview them on site. When obviously we can't be in each of our cities, so our managers will interview our employees. But we screen every single applicant before they're hired, and we sign off on them. And I think for us, the most important thing in our line of work is that we hire really nice people, because in the customer service industry, that makes such a huge difference. And I always tell our staff, when you're working at Georgetown Cupcake, you may be having a bad day, but when a little 9-year-old girl comes in and you're not smiling at her, that's her impression of our business. And so it's hard to understand, but it's very important.
Your 30 seconds of not having a great day will, influence her entire impression of the store for life.
Of the company, yeah. And so we really try to hire really nice people. People with customer service experience too is very helpful. But that being said, we're often the first time employer for a lot of people. We hire a lot of high school students, college students, and all of our cities were near major universities and high schools. And so we try to be that first employer for a lot of kids. And I think it's a fun place to work. It's a fun place to learn. It's very fast paced, so you're never going to be bored working at Georgetown Cupcake. You can see it on the Cupcake Cam if you do watch. But we try to make it a fun place to work too.
So I want to throw a little sidewinder question. What's the worst cupcake flavor you ever made?
I think it probably was the chocolate garlic one that our mother came up with.
Okay.
I don't think, actually, you did which one was the one you did?
I did some really good ones. I don't know what you're talking about. The deep fried red velvet was amazing.
Yeah, that was good. It didn't look so pretty, but it was good. Yeah, I have to admit.
I don't want to be involved in this discussion, right? You guys sort it out. Okay, then what about what one flavor cupcakes you wanted to make but never had the courage to make?
I think we've gone there. I mean, I've done. I've done pretty much everything. I did the deep fried red velvet cupcake, which Sophie was so mad. I did the bacon cupcake, the maple bacon one. When she walked into the bakery, I was frying bacon, and she was like, "It smells like a diner in here. What's going on?" She was so upset at me. But I mean, we try to test the.
We've done pizza cupcakes.
We really do try to test the limit where we can go. But at the same time, our customers, they will let us know if they like it or not. And that's why usually during our 100 free flavors that we give away every day, the secret flavor, we'll test out new recipes, and customers will let us know, I like that, I didn't like it. Yeah. We really take that into consideration.
Any jalapeno or sriracha cupcakes?
Well, we actually did a coconut rendang cupcake this past December. Our customers, actually, one of the comments was it wasn't spicy enough. They wanted more spicy curry in the cupcake in New York. Our New York customers wanted it more spicy. So you learn something new every day.
Maybe you guys should do a Harry Potter. You know those Harry Potter flavors, the Jelly Belly?
Oh yeah. Maybe.
Good idea. That was your idea, by the way, right? So let's talk about the reality show. How did that start? Was that fluke accident, or was this
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, it's not. Yeah. I thought it was planned. It was
no.
Explain what happened there.
So we were still in our first bakery location in Potomac Street, and it was just a regular Saturday, and a guy came in. He had been in line. He came in. He saw me working the register, packing the cupcakes. Sophie was covered in flour and sugar, and he was like, what is this place? And I said, it's a bakery. And he's like, oh, I thought they were giving away free stuff. That's why I got in the back of the line. And so I said, no. And so he's like, wait, you own this place? And I said, yes. And he said, you work here? And I said, yeah. And he saw my mother come out, and I think she yelled at me for something in front of everyone. And he was like, that's your mom? And I said, mm-hmm. And then he left. And the next week he came again, and he saw the same thing, and he said, do you mind if we film here for a weekend? And at the time, Sophie and I had been doing a lot of interviews with bloggers, Georgetown University students, stuff on YouTube, just, random assortment of stuff that would come into the store. We'd do interviews. So he said, sure, why not? So he came, he had just a camera guy and him, and they filmed us one weekend, and it was a crazy weekend in Georgetown. We were actually making cupcakes and a wedding cake for one of the editors of InStyle magazine in New York. So we were under a lot of pressure to do that. Plus, I think it was homecoming weekend in Georgetown, so we had a line down the street, and it was just pure chaos in the store. He filmed. I guess they cut the footage. And Sophie and I weren't from the TV world, so we didn't even know what a production company was or what he did. And so I guess he filmed, he cut the footage, and he sent it to TLC, and before we knew it, they picked up the first season of DC Cupcakes, and they were filming in our bakery.
So it was very much by accident.
And that's when history is made, because that's what put you guys up to national exposure, right? I mean, then did business just take off?
We definitely, that first summer that it aired, that we had a lot of people literally making road trips from across the country to come to Georgetown Cupcake. Because certainly people in DC and in New York and the kind of the East Coast knew our brand, but this is the first time our brand went national, and now the show is shown all over the world. And so we literally have people coming in from different countries, and it's very interesting because we never thought that it would kind of connect with so many people. And like one of the most surprising things that came out of the show is the number of letters and emails we got, especially from young girls, about starting a business, saying, thank you, I love watching your show. Here's my business plan for my bakery or for my business. And I thought that was the coolest thing, because I didn't realize like how many people out there were afraid to start, because we talk about our same anxieties on the show, like starting a business, and the shows, we were not perfect on the show, which shows our screw-ups and our mess-ups. And people, I think, appreciated that, because there are a lot of people out there who have a business, who are going kind of through the same stuff, and finally, like, it's not only me, like, it's this common experience that we share. So there's I think people like things that are real, not so much perfect.
So what was your favorite episode or filming? What did you guys have a favorite?
Well, mine probably has to be my wedding episode when I got married. And Sophie made my wedding cake.
I think that one too. And then also we did one called Operation Cupcake, where we baked in the Pentagon with Pentagon chefs, and we for the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and we shipped 10,000 cupcakes to Afghanistan. To our troops, and we actually got to go to Andrews Air Force Base, load up the cupcakes on the C-17, like watch it take off, and we saw the footage of them, of the chairman and his wife the USO handing out the cupcakes, and it was very emotional. That episode was actually very, very emotional for us, and I didn't think it would be at the beginning, but for some reason, for me, that was a very special episode, and we've done it for the past 5 years. So we've sent over 50,000 cupcakes to our troops since we've started Georgetown Cupcake.
Was that the same? Yeah, great. You had an episode where there was a tank and it was like firing.
Yes,
was that the same?
No,
that wasn't. Okay, something different.
Yeah,
okay.
that was our
birthday.
Yeah,
Got
we
it.
took that to the Pentagon, and it fired cupcakes. And the chairman of the Joint Chiefs actually got in it and fired a cupcake for the Army's birthday. That was pretty cool too.
A little bit of frosting on his jacket.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to talk about disruption in your industry, and everybody's like, oh, cupcakes. What kind of disruption? So I just wanted to ask you guys, like, what's your opinion about cronuts?
Oh, I haven't personally tried one, but I do. I mean, I love deep fried anything. Katherine did make deep fried red velvet cupcakes, and while they weren't the prettiest thing, they were delicious. And so we love all baked goods. And I think bakeries.
Any cronuts in the future for Georgetown Cupcakes?
I think for us, we're very much focused on doing one thing and doing it really, really well. And for us, people ask us like, are we planning on doing other desserts in the future? And for right now, no, because we continue to experience growth just cupcakes, and the way we innovate is by creating new flavors, new assortments, and doing custom work for our customers. And I think doing one thing and doing it really, really well, we want to be the go-to company for cupcakes, whether it's for one person having a birthday for their child, to someone celebrating an anniversary or doing cupcakes for the wedding, to a major financial institution ordering 25,000 cupcakes to send to all their companies nationwide to celebrate a company milestone. Like, we can do any of those kinds of orders, and so that's how we focus on innovation and growth versus new products.
So I got two more competitors for cupcakes. What's your opinion about? Because I saw this on Shark Tank, and Kevin O'Leary actually invested in this company, but it's cupcakes in a jar. So what do you think about that?
When she did the episode with the deep fried cupcake it was the county fair episode, I actually did peaches and cream ones in a jar. And I think, for a backyard barbecue and things like that, I think there's certain places for things. I think that's great as a business. I don't think we would ever sell cupcakes in jars.
Okay.
I mean, I shouldn't say never, but I don't think that's in our.
Well, what was really interesting about them was that even though you guys are selling essentially the same product, they're actually in a different business, because they were saying that the cupcakes in the jar was actually a lot of customers are using that as gifting.
Yes.
And then people go to Georgetown Cupcakes because they don't want to gift it; they want to eat it themselves, right?
But our shipping business is more of a gifting business. So it's for us, we almost have like a dual identity. We have our walk-in bakeries where people get cupcakes for birthdays and just a coffee and a cupcake, and then our shipping business. If you think about who our competitors, it's really almost like the 1-800-Flowers and gifting companies and the Harry and Davids, because people are sending them for Valentine's Day or for Christmas as gifts, and they're personal gifts. And then we also have corporate clients who send them as gifts, and we ship nationwide. And so for us, when we started Georgetown Cupcake, we never thought of that as part of our business. When we started, we didn't ship at all, and people were literally putting the cupcake boxes in UPS pouches and mailing them themselves, and they would get there all toppled and messed up. And we realized like people are sending our cupcakes across the country and they're getting all smashed up, and it doesn't look good. So we need to figure out a way to do this. And this was an example of our customers telling us something and us adapting our business model to what our customers were telling us. And so now we refined our shipping packaging. We have a fantastic relationship with UPS, and now we ship cupcakes like nationwide and ship like millions a year. And so I think for us, that really is one of the main segments of our business that we're really trying to grow with, along and pairing with our mobile app for the future. So it's one of our focus areas.
So now the third disruptor, I want to get your opinion about this, but Sprinkles opened up literally like a couple blocks down from you guys, and they have this thing called ATM Cupcake Machine. You guys have anything like that, or are you guys going to create something? What do you think about that?
I've never seen it. I don't think it's in Georgetown, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I think for us,
for us, it's all about our whole philosophy is baking from scratch on site every day, and we don't keep cupcakes overnight. We start fresh every day, and I think that we always stay true to what our core beliefs were, and ours was always to bake from scratch, fresh every day for our customers.
And along with this destination philosophy, because when you come to our bakery, it is a very visual experience. All of our kitchens are open, so you can see there's a glass pane in Georgetown, and in Soho it's completely open, in Boston and LA and Atlanta. You can see the cupcakes being made, like the milk going in, the eggs being cracked, the frosting being put on, and now with the cupcake cam, even if you're not there, like you can watch it from all over the world, the cupcakes being made. And that is a very much a part of our business philosophy. And I think it is something that creates a connection with customers, and why people love Georgetown Cupcake, because it is a personal thing. You come in and you can see it all happen, and you can smell it, and it's an all-encompassing thing. And people come in with their kids and they watch for hours. And I think it's not just some place where like, okay, we're going to put your cupcakes in a box and here you go and buy it and you're on your way. It's a very much a personal experience and a connection we create. And I think as you start your business, you need to. Some businesses aren't like that. Sometimes it can be completely just, there can be a disconnection, it's fine, depending on what you're selling. But for our business, because of the events we do, like we were part of people's special events in life, their birthdays, their weddings, their anniversaries, and so it definitely creates a connection, and it helps.
So just really quick, but do you guys ever stop by your competitor's store like Spring? Do you send spies out there? No?
No. I think...
I do a little bit of consulting work, so if you need that, let me know.
Yeah, I think one of my best pieces of advice to startups is try to stay in your own lane and don't get distracted by what other people are doing. And for us, we're very much like that. We focus on what we're doing and doing it the best we can. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, what about this? Or what about that? And you have to some extent stay focused, because it's very easy. And I think sometimes when you have very large boards and everyone has different ideas, that's very dangerous for companies too, because you get derailed very, very easily, and sometimes you don't even realize you're getting derailed. And sometimes when we're talking to each other, we have to make sure that we're staying on track. And I think the key to success, and I think one of ours has been, one, adapting to change over time, to changing listening to our customers, adapting our menu, adding shipping, things like that, but also at the same time staying true to our core business philosophy from the beginning and not deviating from that.
I have just a couple more questions before we open it for Q&A. Katherine, I wanted to talk to you about this whole work-life balance. I know that you now have a daughter that was born about 3 years ago, and having children is almost like another startup, right? So how do you balance life between work and family now? Have your priorities shifted?
Yes and no. I think that, anyone who has a child knows that you realize there's so many more hours in the day that could be used. But it really does take a village to have a child and work, whether it's, being an entrepreneur, whether you work, at another company. And so I think it's all about finding a support system to get that work-life balance, or else you're going to lose it very quickly. My mom, who has been great now I've said you're welcome to move in and be a full-time, grandmother if you'd like. And she jumped at the opportunity to do that, which has helped me tremendously because you really do need that support system there for someone to help you when you have to go to work, when I have to travel to New York, when we have to go to LA or Atlanta or wherever, that I have, someone there to watch my daughter.
I have to say our dad is supportive too, because people are like, well, how does your dad feel? Because your mom's and like, are your parents are like, no, our mom like moved in, and so it's not for everyone. Our dad's like, when's your mom gonna come back? And,
but yeah,
it's very hard because we couldn't do it without her, and I think. It's different for every family. Even being an aunt, I try to be helpful where I can, and I think being in this together with and having supportive husbands helps as well. But it definitely does take a village.
So it is possible to have a successful career and a successful family?
I think so. I mean, it's a compromise too. You can't have, everything go your way all the time. And, there are days, every day we take it day by day. It's not like we've got it all planned out, but you just have to take it day by day and, have a great support system there for you and make the best of it.
So
it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy. It's definitely challenging. And, do I wish that I could be there more? Yes. Sometimes do I wish I could be there less? Yes. I'm like, send me off to another store. But you just have to make it work. My parents, they both worked full time, and they dropped us off at our grandmother's house down the street every day. And to see my mother now bake with my daughter in my kitchen when I come home, it's like we've come full circle. And it's actually, it brings me sometimes, it gets me a little choked up sometimes when I see it happen, because it's my whole childhood coming full circle again. And it's a beautiful thing.
So I always joke around with my wife, who's here with my 2 kids, but I always joke around with her, and I always say, I have 2 startups myself. One's in 2nd grade, one's in 6th grade, right? That's true, and then she always looks back at me and she said, well, if you have 2 startups, then that means I have 3. And let's just say the 3rd one is fledgling.
Love it.
So, anyways, one last question before we open up. What is the future of Georgetown Cupcakes? What do you see yourselves in the next 5-10 years?
I think for us, in the near term, we're really focused on mobile, and I think no matter what industry you're in, whether it's food or apparel or design, I think how customers are purchasing things today is different than how they were when we started, and so. We have a mobile app now. We're working on the kind of the next generation of it, and so as we roll out new stores and grow our shipping business, mobile is going to be a huge part of our strategy.
Okay, so we're going to open up for questions. I think we have time for maybe 2. First of all, do we have any City Pass members here who has a question, or VIP members? No? Okay, so we'll just start down here. Just state your name and your question.
Hi, I'm Ikra. My question is that now you have 7 branches of Georgetown Cupcakes, right? Mm-hmm. How do you make sure that the quality and customer experience at every single branch stays at the same par that you started with?
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of travel between each location, and it's a lot of communication. And so we spend a lot of our time every day on email, on the phone with our managers at each location. We travel there whenever we can. We try to get to each location at least every, depending on where they are, a couple of weeks or a couple of months in person, to spend significant time in the shop with our staff alongside them. And it really comes down to communication and hiring good people. You need to have people who embody the same values that you do, who care about the brand. And a lot of the people that we hire actually start at one Georgetown Cupcake location and they kind of move to others. So they have experience at multiple locations. But the short answer is it's a lot of work and it's challenging. And that's one of the reasons why we take a very disciplined approach to growth, because like Katherine said, you can't afford to have a lot of misses in the food business. We don't want to grow so quickly where we sacrifice the quality and experience that makes our brand special.
Next question. I think she had, I'll have you.
Hi, my name's Laura. I have a question about your business plan. I've heard 2 things. One, the business plan isn't essential, it's not that important, and maybe you should visit it a few months after you've opened. and the other half being it's essential and integral to being successful. So I'm curious to know what your thought is on that, and if you guys still revisit it today to adjust it.
Well, in our case, our business plan went out the window the first day we opened for business, and so I mean, I think we did a year's worth of growth
yeah.
in the
Like
first
month
week or one.
or- yeah, a couple months,
I mean,
yeah.
it was just crazy, and so. Like Sophie said in the beginning, our business model was really set up that we would be a catering business, primarily. So people would come in, they would sit down and talk to me. I would take their, baby shower order for next week or their wedding order for, 6 months from now or a year from now. And, we would just do the occasional walk-in. But that's not the way it was from the first day of business. It was people came in, they wanted their cupcakes then and there, and they wanted to leave with them. And so we weren't set up to do that. And so, it would have been easy for us to tell people, I'm sorry, that's just not the way that we do business. This is the way we do it, But, we had to adapt to change very, very quickly. And so our business model was basically, it didn't really help us, at all.
Yeah, but so that being said, I think it's important to write your plan, address your market, address your product, and your plan, and get it on paper. But don't feel like it's the Bible and you have to stick to it, because the truth of the matter is, when you start a company doing something for the first time, there's no way to know how it goes until you actually do it. And to some extent, yes, you can forecast your sales and things like that, but until you actually start, you don't know. And so that first year actually is very, very helpful. So when you're starting and you're looking for funding, it's definitely important to put time and effort, especially if you're looking for investors, to get it down on paper and to kind of get your vision, to be able to share your vision coherently with someone. But when you start your business, be flexible, because the most successful companies are the ones that are going to be able to adapt to change, because the world changes, not just how people, in terms of how they're purchasing things, social media, the regulatory environment, everything's changing. So you can't expect to live in a vacuum over the life of your company. So when you write your business plan, just be flexible, revisit it. Every year, we have board meetings regularly, and we refine ideas. And try to adjust. But I think it's important to get it down, but like Katherine said, you be flexible. It's very important to be flexible.
I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions. I get this guy here and then one more.
Hi, I was wondering how you decided to do cupcakes, and if you didn't do cupcakes, what food item would you do instead of cupcakes?
Well, we were going to be doing cakes. We had our grandmother's cake recipes, and then we thought, well, if we do cupcakes, people can buy more than one, and they can mix and match their flavors. And so that was kind of the attraction of cupcakes. And to be frank, that's why a lot of people like cupcakes now. They can come in to our bakery, and they can get a mix of different flavors. If you're going to a party or a work event, like you enjoyed tonight, you can choose your favorite. If you want peanut butter, chocolate, if you want red velvet, if you want vanilla. So that was the attraction for us. If we didn't do cupcakes, probably I'd say we'd probably end up doing a cake bakery, because we wanted to start a bakery with our grandmother's recipes. And for us, this is a very personal reason for starting a business. So that would be the reason. We didn't come into this saying, well, we want to start a business. What should we do? Let's think of all the different things we can do and evaluate the margins and things. For us, we started Georgetown Cupcake in a very unconventional way. This was more of a childhood dream that kind of just bootstrapped and grew to this point. If you had asked us when we first started, would we think that we would have this many locations of 400 employees and be baking 25,000 cupcakes a day? I'd say absolutely not. That wasn't part in the cards back then. But so that was our reason was more personal. So if you are thinking about starting a business, you probably would want to do take a more analytical approach if there's no personal connection to the product. But for us, it happened to resonate with our customers too, which was good.
Okay, one more question. Okay. Well, there's how many of you have? Okay, who got the most business cards? Let's do it that way. How many business cards did you get? None. Okay, how about you? Did you get any?
You can do all 3. We'll answer them all.
Oh, we're out of time though. Okay, we'll do her. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Sophie too. A really quick question: why Georgetown, and how did the location play a part in your success?
So we were both living in DC at the time, and we spent a lot of time in the neighborhood shopping and just hanging out, restaurants. And Katherine actually found the first storefront on Potomac Street. She was jogging, and it had a for lease sign in, and it was very beat up. And we looked at it, and it was bad, in bad condition. And we thought, but there was something about it that it felt right. And so I think it was just this connection we had to it, and we're like, this is it. And that was it. And we decided on the name Georgetown Cupcake. We went through a number of different names, and in the end, it felt right. You just very simple, got to the point, and so we went with it.
So I have two last questions because I'm the interviewer because I gotta ask the last questions. So from each of you, if you could go back 10 years, not 15 years, 10 years, because you guys are obviously much younger. 10 years, what would be the single best advice you would have given yourself 10 years ago? So Katherine, sounds like you want to go first.
I would say just don't give up, because there's so many times over the course of starting your business, growing your business, that you're gonna just want to like throw the towel in and say it's too much, it's too hard, I can't do it anymore, and you get really, really down on yourselves, and you really have to find that inner strength to keep going. And sometimes it's great to have a support system like a sister or a family that kind of pushes you through those hard times. But just believe in yourself, believe in your idea, and just don't give up.
I think I have to say, don't be afraid to take really big swings. And I think when you're an entrepreneur, you kind of have that mentality, but as you grow your company, it's a little harder to take those big swings, but you got to do it, because that's what's ultimately going to grow your company. And it's not for the faint of heart. I said this before. It's very scary. It's hard. It gets harder. At the startup, we thought, when's this one day going to come where it gets easy, when everything goes smoothly and there's no problems? And that day doesn't exist when you're an entrepreneur. And it doesn't get easier. It actually gets harder as you grow. And that's a good thing. And you should also to learn to embrace the uncertainty of it and enjoy the uncertainty, because that's part of it. And you have to learn to live with it and love it, because that's going to be your life.
Okay, and one last question, because I already asked you this question, and this was easy because we always ask one last questions for all of our speakers, and we always say, and there's two of you, so I thought there was probably two answers, but I was lucky because you guys had one answer. So, who is your favorite superhero or historical figure, and why?
We said Wonder Woman.
You said
Wonder Woman.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, mine's Wonder Woman. And I think we grew up watching Wonder Woman, and for us, she
rocked.
Yeah, she wasn't afraid of anything. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like she could tackle
Sometimes
anything.
you have to be your own hero, though.
Yeah.
In your own story. And I know there's like a famous quote that someone said, sometimes you have to be the hero in your own story. But it's true. It's like sometimes just believe in yourself.
Yeah.
So the reason why we do this is because I always go and get these action figure hero of your choice. So here we go.
Love it.
Thank you.
We do love her.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out. Ladies and gentlemen, Sophie and Katherine of Georgetown. Okay.